Right, my next guests, they're experts in the field of nuclear energy, and they went to Canberra hoping to get politicians on all sides to understand how important nuclear power is to our future. Tony Irwin is a chartered engineer, more than 50 years experience in nuclear power and research reactors. Dr. Adrian Addy Paterson is one of the country's preeminent nuclear power experts, former chief executive of the Australian Nuclear Science and Technology Organisation, often known as ANSTO. They join me now from our Parliament House studio in Canberra. Well, gentlemen, thank you. Addy, I'll start with you if I can. What motivated this trip for all of you experts, to turn up in Canberra and try and talk some sense into the politicians?
Peter, was precipitated by the Australian Energy Market Operator plan for the future. We have been watching this for a while, but the plan has now got so bad with this notion of 90% renewables in the grid that we felt it was really important to bring a range of experts, and we've had that first discussion today to show that really above about 25 to 30% intermittent renewables, your grid starts to become unstable. And at the moment, we are not just talking about 20 or 35%, we're talking about a grid that we are going to fill with lots and lots of renewables. And in fact, in the case of the current plan, is to build an extra new grid to support that. We've done the economics on that, but we are based really in physics, in engineering, and in good practice, and in understanding what the rest of the world has. And it simply doesn't stack up.
So, Tony, this is not about ideology, and I think ideology has crowded out common sense and engineering reality from this debate for far too long. This point about the grid, help my viewers at home understand how unstable the grid might become if we go down this path of transition too quickly and without firming capacity.
Yes, I mean, the grid, with just solar and wind, it's far too variable. We've seen this recently in South Australia, where the frequency was outside of limits for several hours. The only way South Australia keeps it stable with running gas, and that's not a long-term solution. So certainly we see small modular reactors, SMRs, as part of the stability, the reliability, the low emissions that'll really help this grid to be more stable.
Addy, if we're serious about lowering emissions, but we also want baseload power to drive the economy, and I think particularly for energy security, why is it that the rest of the world could go down the nuclear path and we can't even have a rational adult conversation about nuclear power in this country?
I think there are a couple of drivers. The one driver is it's really easy to attack nuclear if there's an ongoing sort of mental model that says it is always going to be bad. But that world has changed. I mean, this week, there's a nuclear power plant operating in California because the Californian lower house voted 157-3 to keep that nuclear plant operating. Now, the reason that they've made that change is because they've moved from an ideology about nuclear to an understanding the essential role of nuclear in a low-carbon future. And so I think what we're seeing in Germany, they're also keeping a nuclear plant open, having closed 20. We're seeing people come to the realization that intermittent renewables are completely at odds with how we actually want to have our power in our homes, in our hospitals, in our industries and our factories. The key issue is that nuclear, if you say it very quickly, can sound frightening or expensive. But if you integrate modern small modular plants into the existing grid that we have, we don't have to duplicate the grid. We can have these safe, always on, always available plants, keeping the price of electricity down at the lowest levels. This has been modeled by experts. And it's a very simple equation. It's moving from fear to facts, and from fables about renewables to a future with the appropriate use of small modular reactors.
Here, Addy Paterson, and I really hope you get into the debate more and more. That is just so much common sense. We don't get enough of it on this particular issue. Thank you both for your time. Dr. Paterson there and Tony Irwin from Canberra.